Sometimes the scariest voices don't come from the shadows you can see, but from the signals that slip through wires and airwaves. Sounds that reach across distance and death. Tonight I bring you 3 chilling encounters. 3 people who heard something no living ear was meant to hear. First, the story of Emily, a young woman who began receiving late-night calls from someone she loved. Someone who should have been silent forever.
My name is Emily, and I used to believe that when someone dies, their voice is gone forever. I don't believe that anymore. It started 6 months after my sister Claire passed away. Claire and I were only a year apart. She was the fearless one, the kind of person who would laugh in the dark just to prove it had no power. Her car accident was sudden, violent, and left me with a silence I didn't know how to fill. One rainy Thursday night, I was grading papers in my tiny apartment. It was almost midnight. The streets outside were slick and empty, the kind of night where every sound carries farther than it should. My phone buzzed once on the desk, an old-fashioned ringtone I hadn't heard in years. Unknown number. I almost let it ring out, but something about the tone felt familiar, like a song I'd forgotten. I answered. At first there was only static, soft, like distant wind through tall grass. Then a faint voice, female, calling my name.
Emily?
I pressed the phone tighter against my ear. It sounded impossible, but it sounded like Claire. "Who is this?" I whispered. No answer, just a low hiss, then the faintest trace of a melody, a tune we used to hum as kids when we couldn't fall asleep. The call dropped before I could speak again. I stared at the screen for a long time, waiting for the number to refresh, but it only read, "No caller ID." I barely slept that night. The next morning, I convinced myself it was a cruel prank, until the phone rang again. Same unknown number, same soft static, same impossible voice.
Emily, can you hear me?
This time it was clearer. The warmth, the little upward tilt she always had when she said my name. It was Claire. I knew it as surely as I know my own heartbeat. I tried to record the call, fumbling with the screen, but before I could start the app, the voice whispered a string of words so fast I almost missed them.
Psalm 23, verse 4.
Psalm 23, verse 4. Then the line went dead. I grabbed my old Bible from the shelf, a gift from Claire when we were teenagers, and flipped through trembling fingers. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Reading the verse out loud sent a cold wave through the room. The air felt heavier, as if someone else was standing right behind me. I spun around. Nothing. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the faint patter of rain. The calls kept coming, always late at night, always the same soft static, the same pleading whisper. Sometimes she said my name. Sometimes she recited Bible verses we used to read together as kids. Once she whispered almost playfully, "Do you remember the treehouse?
It's still there."
Each time the call ended, my apartment felt a little colder, as if the silence itself was watching me. I changed my number. I bought a brand new phone. The very first night, the new device rang. Unknown caller, same melody, same voice. I stopped sleeping. I stopped leaving the apartment after dark. Every ring felt like a trap I couldn't resist. Then came the last call. It was a Friday, just after 2 a.m. I sat cross-legged on the living room floor, Bible open in my lap. When the phone buzzed, I didn't even hesitate. I answered and said, "Claire, if that's really you, please Tell me what you want." The static thickened until it almost drowned her out. Then, clear as if she were sitting beside me, her voice cut through.
"Emily, it's so dark here. I'm waiting."
The line cracked, a high screech that made me pull the phone from my ear. And over the screech, like a second voice hiding inside the first, came a distorted male whisper, deep, hollow, like it was inside the walls.
"She belongs to us."
The call ended with a sharp click that echoed in the room like a gunshot. I sat frozen for what felt like hours, listening to a silence so heavy it felt alive. When I finally looked at the screen, the call log was empty. No record of any incoming number, not even the usual unknown. The next morning, I packed a bag and left the apartment. I've been staying with friends ever since, but every night, no matter where I am, I keep my phone face down and powered off, because sometimes, even through the plastic and glass, I swear I can feel it vibrate, just once, soft and patient, as if Claire is still out there, waiting for me to answer.
Emily's nightmare began with a single ringing phone. But some messages don't need a phone at all. They travel hidden in static, waiting for anyone curious enough to listen. Our next story follows Vincent, a late-night radio enthusiast who tuned into a numbers broadcast that seemed harmless at first, until the transmission began speaking directly to him.
My name is Vincent, and for as long as I can remember, I've been addicted to late-night radio. Old ham sets, static, distant signals, they always felt like little secrets floating through the dark. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what I heard last winter. It was a little after 1 a.m. I was at my desk with the shortwave dial crawling across the bands, searching for anything unusual. Most nights it's the same, static, faint music, maybe a weather broadcast. Then, a sharp click, a single steady tone. After the tone, a woman's voice, not singing, not reading news. She spoke a single number. Pause, another number, pause. Each word was cold and perfect, almost mechanical.
4, 7, 9, 3.
Kind of voice that sounds human, but too flawless to really belong to anyone. Number stations aren't new. Spies used them during the Cold War. Collectors still chase them. I should have been excited, but instead a tightness settled in my stomach. Something about the rhythm felt wrong, like the numbers were waiting for me. I grabbed a notepad.
4, 7, 9, 3, 0, 6.
Then the voice changed. A single word, clear as glass.
"Vincent?"
I froze, pen mid-stroke. No one outside a few radio friends even knew I was listening that night. Coincidence? Maybe. But the next sequence destroyed that thought. She began reciting my street address, digit by digit, letter by letter, slow, careful, perfect. I ripped the headphones off. For a long moment, I just sat there in the low hum of the equipment, heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. When I finally slipped the phones back on, the voice was still there, repeating the numbers. But now, after every string, she whispered a date. Next Friday, 11 p.m. I spun the dial to another band. Dead air. Back to the frequency, nothing but static. The signal was gone as if it had never existed. All week I searched databases, forums, anything that might explain it. No scheduled transmissions, no pirate broadcasts, no other listeners reporting anything strange. Friday night came anyway. I promised myself I wouldn't listen. But at 10:59 p.m., my hand was already on the dial. The second the clock struck 11, that same sharp tone returned. The woman's voice followed. soft, deliberate. But this time she didn't call my name. She simply asked,
Ready?
Then, complete silence. No numbers, no static. Just a dead, empty frequency. I've searched every night since, the signal never returned. But sometimes, when the static is just right, I swear I hear her breathing, waiting for me to answer.
Vincent searched the airwaves for answers, but some signals don't just reach out. They come inside, into our homes, into the devices meant to keep us safe. In our final story, we meet Sarah, a young mother whose baby monitor began to carry a voice no parent should ever hear. A voice that grew darker with every passing night.
My name is Sarah, and I thought baby monitors were supposed to keep you safe. They're there to let you sleep, to catch a cry in the middle of the night, not to whisper things you were never meant to hear. It started 3 months after my son, Jacob, was born. Every night I set the monitor on the nightstand, the little green light flickering with his breathing from the next room. The first few weeks were normal, soft static, the occasional squeak of the crib. Then, one night around 2 a.m., I heard something else, a faint voice, not Jacob's soft whimper, a low, rhythmic murmur, like someone humming a lullaby just off key. I sat up, heart thudding, and stared at the monitor's speaker. The camera showed Jacob asleep, motionless, but the humming continued. Slow, careful, almost like words I couldn't quite catch. I grabbed the receiver and pressed the talk button. Hello? Who's there? The humming stopped instantly. The room on the screen stayed dark and still. I told myself it was interference, maybe a neighbor's baby monitor bleeding into ours. But the next night, at the same time, the voice came back. This time it wasn't humming. It whispered my name.
Sarah. Sarah. Come closer.
The words were soft, almost kind. Too kind. I ran to Jacob's room, empty except for my sleeping baby, his tiny chest rising and falling in perfect calm. The air felt colder, though, like the window had been left open, but it was locked tight. Night after night, the whispers grew bolder. Sometimes they spoke Jacob's name. Sometimes they recited numbers. Strings of them, steady and patient as if counting down. Once, in a breath that almost sounded amused, the voice said,
He's not alone in here.
I called the monitor company. They swore no other signal could cross the channel. I bought a new monitor, different brand, different frequency. The very first night, the new unit buzzed to life, and the same voice whispered through. One night, I decided to record it. I set my phone beside the speaker and waited in the dark. At exactly 2:13 a.m., the static thickened into a low, grinding hiss, like metal twisting under pressure. Then, cutting straight through the noise, a voice unlike anything human tore out of the speaker. It was deep, layered, as if several mouths were speaking at once.
The child is not yours.
The words dragged and warped, each syllable stretching too long, echoing against the walls like they were coming from inside the room itself. Jacob stirred in his crib. The baby monitor popped and cracked, the green light flaring brighter than it should before the voice returned, lower, hungrier.
We are already here.
The final word dissolved into a shriek so sharp it felt like it split the air, and then absolute silence. For 3 nights, the monitor stayed quiet. I started to believe it was over. Then, last Friday, the green light snapped on at 2:13, exactly. No static, no buildup, just a single sentence, perfectly clear.
Look behind you.
I spun around so fast I nearly dropped the receiver. Nothing. only the dark hallway stretching toward Jacob's room. When I turned back, the monitor screen had changed. It no longer showed Jacob, it showed me. Sitting on my own bed, the camera angle from behind as if something else in the room was watching. The image flickered, and the voice, low and patient, whispered one final line.
You can't force us out.
The screen went black. I tore through Jacob's room, checked every door and window. Everything was locked. No sign of anyone. I don't use monitors anymore. But every night at 2:13, I still wake to the faint sensation of static, as if the air itself is trying to speak, waiting for me to listen again.
3 voices, 3 signals, 3 warnings that some transmissions should never be answered. If you ever hear a name that shouldn't be spoken, a call that comes from nowhere, or a signal that seems to know you, remember these stories and let the silence win. This has been Epic Nightmares. Thank you for listening. And until next time, keep your lights low.
And your radios quiet.